Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the I Voted for Pedro show. I'm Ted of Ted Talks Ball. This is Pete of Niners DNA, also known as Pedro. Pedro, how are you doing today? It's technically a Victory Monday. It's just been a while since Thursday since we played. But how are you feeling?
Technically, it is a winning. What we call it. But I'm well. I was away on a golfing weekend, and I got back yesterday. Well, I got back on Sunday night. It's Tuesday morning here now in Sydney. Watched the Eagles game. Obviously, watched our game. Could only see the 40-minute version of it because I was away, and it was late at night when we got back to our hotel room. But looking forward to this week. Obviously, I think we've got a really, really, really good chance based on a couple of caveats, and it's not because of any downside. Well, downside in which we'll get to, downside in terms of our coach, but I think it's just in terms of a player's maturity at the moment that we'll get to. But mate, I'm glad to be here. Good to see you, and because I haven't seen you, happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate it. I was we were chatting a little bit about it backstage, and I was like, "How do you know about Thanksgiving?" I forgot you lived here in the States for a while. That's how you got into football, so you're familiar with the holiday. And thanks. It was a happy Thanksgiving. Obviously, we beat the Seahawks. That was really happy. Had a nice day with my folks and brother-in-law and sister and their kids and my kids, and so it was a family day. And we all got together and watched the game. And my dad got kind of nervous there for a little while watching the game, and I just said, I was a little nervous, but I was pretty much just like, until their offense scores a touchdown, I'm not going to be that nervous because they obviously got the pick six. They obviously got the 2 field goals, but it just didn't seem like Geno Smith and company could get anything done. And, part of that is probably they're missing one of their offensive tackles, and part of it, that Jason Peters was filling in for, and then he got dinged up. And then they brought in that guy, Stone Forsythe. I love that name for an offensive lineman, Stone, but, obviously not when it's a Seahawk lineman. And he didn't do very well. Bosa obviously got a sack off of him, and at least one anyway. But I'm kind of rambling here. The bottom line was we won by more than we thought. I thought it might be close. I thought the refs might screw us. I think that's maybe a segue into something we'll talk about more today. Let's talk a little bit to the chat here. They were happening way before we even got here. Red Jet Shell was here early. Saying
morning, Red Jet.
And Red Jet, it was an early adopter member of the TED Talks Ball channel. So thank you for signing up to be a member. That's that little icon you see there. I need to redo it so it's a little bit cooler. But for now, that's what we got. We got Steven in the house. Don't bother me. It looks like he's a little nervous about the Eagles. He's saying, "What's up, Ted and Pedro? Big game coming up." And he said, "Who will be the offensive and defensive impact players this week?" We'll get to that, definitely. Let's just get to a few more of these chats here real quick. James Dernall in the house, coming to us from across the pond in the UK. Why are the Eagles home underdogs? Do the bookies know something we don't? I thought home field advantage would be a big deal in this game. And I think it is. I just think I think that the Niners are playing better football right now than the Eagles. The Eagles have granted the Eagles have been playing better teams, but they've just been squeaking out some wins and coming from behind to win. And we all know kind of the Niners, if we win, we usually win by a lot. If it's close, we probably won't win the game. And that's sort of a preview to my prediction for this game with the Eagles. Nancy Cameron in the house is my very first member. Red Jet Shaw was my second member. Great weekend of football. Yeah, too bad the Bills didn't help us out. Yeah. They tried. They came close. But, kicking a field goal in overtime is you're just leaving yourself wide open there, no doubt. And then I saw Annie Agar posted something about I feel like I'm messing up her name. It's not Annie. It's what's her name? The one who does the funny 1-minute weekly shows.
Oh, Annie Agar. I love her.
It is Annie Agar. Okay. She posted a picture of Josh Allen. It looked like being horse collared.
I just watched that. His jersey was ripped.
Yeah. And so, she was saying, basically NFL officiating is no good because they didn't call that, essentially, was what I thought I got from it, but I wasn't sure. I didn't watch much of the game, so I didn't see that play. I saw a little bit on Red Zone, but ultimately I was busy doing family stuff quite a bit. Yeah, it's really too bad the Bills didn't help us out, but like I said, they tried. They're just shorthanded on defense too, after losing Tre'Davious White and Matt Milano and Daquan Jones. We've kind of chronicled that a fair amount about how they might be one of the best teams in the NFL if they had those defenders. Jim Everett the Great in the house. Always got to get his VCR dig in. Smash the like button. We got Brant Culp in the house. Everybody make sure you check out his YouTube channel. He and his wife do great things, so check them out for sure. He's repeating himself there, though. We love it. Hell of a Philly Buffalo game. It absolutely was exciting for sure. I just wish the Bills could have gotten it done. But what are you gonna do? Steve-O's Customs in the house. He says, shout out to Ed. Shout out to Steve-O. He does custom sneaks. If anybody needs anything like that, make sure you hit him up. And we got Jimmy Perez in the house saying, what's up, Ted and Pedro? And James Ronald says, do you think Wilkes will shy away from calling man coverage? The top
receiving side of the ball, I think he's trying.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm interested to see if Mooney can lock up Brown 1-versus-1. That's a tall order. I think AJ Brown is better than DK Metcalf, in my opinion.
I think so too.
So that would be difficult to do, but he played so well again. I mean, so it's so interesting with Mooney Ward. I was at the wild card game last year, our first playoff game against the Seahawks, and DK Metcalf absolutely torched Mooney Ward in that game.
Yeah.
It went off on him, and if the rest of the Seahawks had played as well, they would have crushed us. But he was kind of the only one who showed up that day for the Seahawks, luckily for us. And Brock went off in the second half. And anyway, so it's a real interesting tale of the last two games played between the Seahawks and the Niners. DK destroyed Mooney 2 games ago, and then Mooney really locked him down in this last game. So maybe, DK is no slouch. There's no doubt about that. The guy's big, he's strong, he's fast. He's not the most talented route runner, and he can get in his head, and maybe that's what happened. I don't know. But go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think James has brought up the kernel, the crux of what I think this game is going to come down to. I think that is where the game is going to be won and lost. What our defense coverage will be, because we know that mobile quarterbacks give us fits. We call him press man. He's a very mobile quarterback, and as he says a little bit later on down here, James, All Pro Pred playing spy. I think we've got to play all. I think my opinion is we play press man. I don't think we can play zone, only because of the way that we get home quicker when we are playing press man, and we've got the pass rush. We've got to set things up for our pass rush to do the things that they can do. And so, but yeah, James, I think you're right on the money, mate. We talked about the line just before we came on air in regard to the betting. And yes, we were both surprised that we were -2.5. Ted's comment, which I agree with, we are playing better football. But what Philly has is that Philly football team mentality. They just grind stuff out. And when they get into the trenches, they seem to have that grit, which Ted and I both have an opinion on if it's going to be close, which we'll get to, I'm sure. So that's, yeah.
There you go. Alberto Soto says, what up, fam? Hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. Where do you put Purdy now for 1 to 10 QBs? Last I had him, Alberto, last week was 6 to 9. I might bump him up a little bit just because Burrow's out. I might say 5 to 8 or something. I don't know. I'll get on it later tonight. Hopefully before Kurt Bankert does his. I like to see where he ends up. I said 6 to 9. I think he said maybe it was last week when I said 8 to 12 and he said 7. I don't know if I saw one after I said 6 to 9. I think he said lower too. I think he said maybe 4. But anyway, I'll get on that tonight, Alberto, before once the Monday night game's over. That's when, once all the games are over, that's when I usually do that. Hey, special celebrity sighting, Skip Bayless in the house. How about that?
Skip, what's up, Skip?
It's got to be Steve-O Supremo if I was a betting man, but we'll see. I love it. This is going to be a good game. Been waiting. Oh, so real quick, yeah, we've all been waiting for a while, no doubt about it, Steve-O. A lot of talk going on. So just to touch on your points, Pedro, you know, as far as press man coverage, two things I would say about that. One is the only thing about man, if everybody's playing man, is everybody has their back to the quarterback once people are out in the pattern. And then that gives Jalen Hurts a real chance to run. Unless somehow you could play press man and still have a spy too. I don't know. Maybe if you could do that, then maybe it might. Then I might be more in favor of it. I mean, I definitely want us pressed up, whether it's zone or man. I don't want this, you know, practically prevent defense that got us into so much trouble so much this year. So definitely pressed up, but maybe half man, half zone. I don't know. I don't know how you do it, but somehow you got to have a spy for Jalen Hurts. Absolutely, in my mind.
Well, that's what James said. He said having Fred Warner as spy.
Oh, okay, there you go. There you go.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what he says. So yeah, I don't know how you look. Yeah, I'm no defensive genius, but that seems to be the right way to go.
Yeah, and Red Jet has a good point here. We'll get to that in a minute. The other thing I was going to say about the Eagles-Niners game is, you know, there's some pretty important personnel situations.
Yeah.
If Lane Johnson, their right tackle, can't go, that would be huge. Also, if Dallas Goedert isn't back yet, it sounds like they both might play. They both might not play. Those are two huge. And if they don't have Goddard and Lane Johnson, I'd say that gives us a real big advantage. And just as far as, I don't know if we ever really answered James Darnall when he asked why we're favored. I just think the 49ers are playing better football. I kind of mentioned it, I guess.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're playing better football.
When we're 100%, you know, when all the Avengers are there, if we're going to use the Nick Wright stuff or whoever's been saying that well, it's not really nonsense. I've kind of been saying similar things myself about our weapons. When all the Avengers are healthy and Brock Purdy's clicking, it's tough to defend us. Gammon Brown's in the house. He said, would I be able to hop on? I'll leave it up to Pedro Gammon. You know, he only has an hour. Maybe let's do this, Gammon. When at 3 o'clock Pacific, when Pedro hops off, why don't you hop on then? That would be
I'm easy, man. Whatever you want to do. I know you've got your thing set up, which I know you can probably easily. I
could just send them a link.
Yeah, I'm easy, man. I'm easy. Whatever you want to do.
Well, if you don't mind a third person, it's always good to have more. Gammon's been on before. He's got good thoughts.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'll send you the link in just a minute here, Gammon. Let's get through these chats real quick first. So Skip Bayless is saying my Cowboys going to smoke the Lucky Eagles at home. Just watch. Yeah, I mean, there's a real chance that the Niners could go into Philly and beat the Eagles, and then the Cowboys could beat the Eagles in Dallas, and then we would be in charge of first place in the NFC because we would have the head-to-head against the Eagles, and we would have the same record. So that would be pretty awesome. I don't know that I want to count on the Cowboys, but we really don't have much choice after losing 3 straight. We don't have any. We don't control our own destiny anymore, and God damn it, we might have to root for the Cowboys. We probably do have to.
That's all right. That's all right. When I watched Hard Knocks, I kind of got a little bit. I kind of like Dak. He's okay. He seems like a pretty good guy.
He's doing well this season, other than that game against us. So people are talking. I heard on the sports radio today on 95.7 The Game, Guru and Steinmetz were talking about maybe Dak in the MVP conversation. He's having that good of a year. So that was news to me. I didn't realize that he was playing that well. Got Ryan from No Border Sports. Make sure you check us out tomorrow. We go every Tuesday. No BS Ted, 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern. So smash that like button. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. How about them Cowboys? Skips on a loop here. LMAO celeb status. Yeah, I don't think it's the real Skip Bayless, but you never know. I mean, crazier things have happened. I mean, maybe not on my channel, but crazier things have happened in the world. So that would be the craziest thing for me, for sure. Don't use Fred's as a spry. Use Greenlaw. Yeah,
I'm not opposed to that.
Greenlaw would definitely make him pay a little more if he did decide to run. Dre would add a little extra thump, that's for sure.
A little spice.
I think CMC will throw a TD. I think Kyle will throw in a few trick plays to counter up the points. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, CMC, I remember well when CMC threw that TD against the Rams, because that next week was my first show for TED Talks Ball. So I'm just over a year into this. And yeah, so, and then, you know, we saw Debo tried to throw there in Seattle, didn't he? And he ended up throwing it away, which was great. You almost never see that when a non-quarterback rolls out, and they almost always either like throw, you know, completion, incompletion, interception, but they almost never throw the ball away. So that was pretty cool to see that from Debo. And Debo's thrown obviously the TD against the Rams. We you know, I was saying at one point, like pretty much every single one of our skills players, other than Ayuk and Kittle, you know, he's either maybe not all in the NFL, but for instance, Juwan Jennings did a lot of Wildcat QB in Tennessee. Juszczyk is our backup, you know, is our backup QB forever. So he's never really thrown any passes that I've seen.
No.
And then who else? Obviously CMC and Debo we already talked about. Yeah. So there's a lot of options of guys that catch balls for the 49ers who can throw balls too. Dana Berry Sport Highlights in the house. Make sure you check out his channel. Let's give us a hey. Buffalo played zone and it was working out for them with their D line that would put pressure on Hurts. And with our D line, that would put pressure. Yeah, definitely. Our D line is better than Buffalo's. And even though they got Von Miller back, I still think our D line is a little bit better. So yeah, I think that should be helpful for us.
This is the other big variable that we need to be very mindful of.
What's
weather.
Yeah, I saw 30%
like it was yesterday.
I already started checking it. And it said 30% chance for rain, so that's a little bit of a concern. Wrong account. So, and you know, back east weather can change on a dime, so it could get a lot better or worse by then. So we'll see what happens. I'm just gonna send Gammon that link. There we go. All right, you've got it, Gammon, in your DMs. Let's see here. And then James was saying Fred is an interception machine. Greenlaw is a thumper. I can see Hurts shy away from running if Dre is spying him, but I think Fred would be more effective. All right, there you go. You need Fred to play zone for spy for passes, Dre to lurk for Lion when Hurts runs. I can see either. Weather as of now, so say 30% chance. That's what I saw earlier today. So I guess it hasn't changed. And it probably changed day to day. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on that. Hold ratio. So 30%, you know, usually what that means is, you know, it's going to rain some, but probably nothing too heavy and not too steady either. When you start getting up into 70, 80, 90%, 100%, that's where it's like, it's pouring ass rain and there's no breaks and it's just like, or very few breaks. And it's just more like a monsoon type of situation. And we know we don't like monsoons. Chase will have 3 sacks. Wow, that's aggressive. He did have some sacks against them earlier this season. I think he's had 1 or 2 against them. Maybe it was a couple against the Commander. No, he was on the Commanders. I know he had a sack or 2 against the Eagles, though, earlier this season for the Commanders. Got Mitch Koski in the house. Fly Eagles Fly. We had a little got our wires crossed today. I thought we were going to go live today at noon, but it's tomorrow, Tuesday at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern. Mitch has, what's that? He's a big Eagles fan. He also runs the Hardcore Sports Network. It's one of the sort of like it's groups of YouTubers, podcasters that help promote each other and check each other's workout and stuff. So that should be fun. Mitch is excited. I also have a show this afternoon at 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern with Ryan from BSing Sports. And I've done a few shows with him. I did some before the NFC Championship game and some in the off season. Or I think we did one earlier this season when both our teams were 5-0, actually. Or maybe it was Bill. There's two guys. So there's Bill and Ryan from BSing Sports. And I think Bill was on earlier this season. This afternoon it'll be Ryan. But they're both good guys. They're both knowledgeable and not too bad of Eagles homers. We'll see about Mitch. Hopefully he's fair. But hey, it could be fun to be spicy too. We'll see. Gammon coming in for a landing like that red jacket in this photo. I'm not sure I'm catching that.
No.
Gammon's photo. Okay, let's see. Let's take a look. Oh, that's sick for sure. Very cool red jacket. I have to get one like that for myself, I think. Did you send it to me? Yes, over Twitter. Yes, I think. Yeah, Gammon Brown. Yeah. Oh, you know what? I didn't hit send. That's why. It was all queued up. Now it's sent. Thanks for reminding me. Commentator pointed out the Bills rushers were very disciplined, keeping tight rush lanes. Yeah. That's something we need to work on for sure.
Well, okay, well, who is not going to be disciplined?
Hargrave.
Yeah.
Hargrave. I've seen him so many times shoot in there. Not necessarily on pass plays I saw it, but I saw it on run plays where they just let him come free and he's like running like I'm gonna get the quarterback, and like also they just hand to the running back and he's gone and he doesn't even affect the play. It was earlier this season and maybe we've remedied it, but Hargrave would be that was like right on the tip of my tongue, and then maybe just Chase Young because there was definitely some Commanders when we traded with them.
That's right.
Who were saying that he was playing for stats and not as a teammate. And so let me just do a quick thing here.
Well, that could have been because of him wanting to get a trade.
Well, and like if you're not winning, what else do you play for besides stats, right?
That's right.
So you can't really expect him to play for wins when the Commanders aren't winning. But yeah, I mean, I think in that order, I'd say Hargrave would be my, one who might not be disciplined, and then Chase Young would be the other. And then, I don't know, Armstead a lot of times blew contain back in the day when he was playing D-end. He would take these inside routes, and Russ Wilson would just run around the outside on him. But I think it's a little bit different with him playing D-tackle. I think Bosa is good at doing the mush rush. He's done it against Kyler. I've seen him do it well there. Yeah. But love to get your thoughts on that. And welcome, Gammon. This is Pedro. I don't think
you guys have worked
before.
I'm good. You sound like
coming to us from Australia. He's from Sydney.
I was just gonna say he sounds like he's from Australia. Being in the army.
He's from the future. He's from the future because it's Tuesday morning at like 9 a.m. there or whatever it is now.
9:25.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah. I love that.
It is. He's a great guy.
So I really like the questions that James Darnell is, and if I mispronounced your last name, I apologize, but that you're asking.
Yeah,
it sounds like somebody who's just itching for that information. And so one of the things that I'd really kind of look at, right, is the 49ers and Eagles are completely different as far as how they execute, but their game plans are very similar. I think that this revelation that we have with Purdy in his computer processing unit, right? Just his CPU of his brain is like AI on a different level. So he's just really able to process stuff. So I'm now confident enough. I wouldn't have been able to say this 4 or 5 weeks ago, even after the drubbing of the Dallas Cowboys, to be able to say, hey, if you take away the run, you know what I mean, we're going to be able to throw the ball on you. If you take away the pass, then we're going to run it, because you only have so many assets on defense to really go like, I'm going to stop this one thing it is that you want to do. Well, what's interesting in a similar fashion, right, when you look at the Eagles, they're kind of the same way. Like, I've always feel like you are who your record says that you are. So what's interesting is in the first half of the game, because we always say, like, pick your poison. Well, if you stop Debo, then McCaffrey's going to kill you. If you stop McCaffrey and you sell against McCaffrey, then Debo, Ayuk, or Kittle, right? Like, they're going to kill you. You can't play two different offensive weapons on two sides all at the same time. So kind of a PYP situation. Well, with the Eagles, it's kind of interesting. They're the same way. Like sell out, stop the run, and then we're going to try and get after you in the passing game. But, and I would have said 3 to 4 weeks ago, we have to sell out to stop the run, but our weakness is in the secondary. If I'm saying what a revelation Brock Purdy has become, I have to say right now what a revelation Ambry Thomas has become. And I'm just going to go, I'm going to go on this, and I'm going to say this, and this isn't to blow smoke up people's skirts or to help without, any Twitter arguments, or if you go on SB Nation, right? But we're a completely different team on defense than we were a couple weeks ago. Now, some will say, hey, before Chase Young, the first 5 games, we only had 5 sacks. In the last 3 games since we've had Chase Young, we've had 15 sacks. I do think there's some math computation there. But I think what you have is, instead of having a linebacker-centric defense, you're now having this defensive back coach in Wilks who is preparing. He's building up these guys' confidence in a similar manner to what you kind of saw Jim Harbaugh do with Alex Smith. Alex Smith was an absolute husk, a shell of himself, and you just watch him just kind of bring him aboard, build him up. So I'm actually of the thought process of, I think that you really need to play like a 5-2 kind of front, right? Get your Kinlaw, your Hargrave, your Armstead, and then get your Young and your Bosa out there. And then I think then you just have to believe in that zone that you're going to be able to do whatever you need to do with Warner and Greenlaw. Greenlaw to play the run. Hey, if they come out there with 3 trips wide, you move Fred Warner over to the to that slot corner. How do you feel we'd fare with our 5-man front? Situationally, look, if it's 3rd and 3, okay, maybe. But we're talking about, this is a team that kind of wants to go with that 3 shell kind of high, right? Some of that Tampa 2.
Randy.
I'm so glad that I looked at myself and told myself that I'm a beautiful man, so I have enough self-confidence here to go ahead and take
God,
that.
people like me.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Good enough.
But I don't think that you can do that all the time, right? So like first down, what I really want to see the 49ers do is I want to see them go with that loaded front. Bring Ward, bring Greenlaw up to the front, right? Just right there on the line. And now we're covering both A gaps, and we're just totally gapped. Now we can jump them back, rush 4, that sort of thing. Do your stunts inside. And then I think then we'll be really, really set. So you need to do the loaded fronts. This is the best offensive line of football. So make this offense over communicate, right? Like that's the worst. They just want to be able to run up, call their play. That's it. They're in home. So there's no crowd noise. So what you have to do is you have to build that internal team noise right there. Right. And so now you got to make these guys so much more communication. Hurts needs to start pointing stuff out. And then we have to remember, Hurts is hobbling. So if there's a time to get this team, it's now. So what we really need to do is just solidify, make those gaps. And guess what? If we do the loaded front and then they end up handing off the ball, our guy's already there to meet them at the juncture. But if not, hey, jump back. Our middle linebackers are fast enough to fly back into where they need to be, and then just have Fred Warner just spy the inside. And then if anything goes over 1 yard past the line of scrimmage, Dre Greenlaw, just like the hit that he gave to Baker Mayfield, he's right there kind of lined up on it. So I think you do loaded fronts on first down because you don't know really what you're getting. And then second down is really where you need to start playing that 5-man kind of front and just trust that your Fred Warner can cover Smith. Now, I do want to say this: as good as the Eagles' offensive line has been, this is going to be a huge game for Bosa. I'm looking for a bit, and I know that seems like Defensive Player of the Year. Gammon saying a big game for Bosa, and we're going against that. Well, it's not so much that. When we look at the left tackle for the Eagles, that guy is playing out of his gourd. We're talking like Trent Williams type level over there on the left tackle. Okay. I don't think I need to talk much about Kelsey. I think everybody knows about the Kelsey brothers, probably watches some of their camps. But the reason why this is going to be a huge game for Bosa is you look at who he's lining up over, right? And that's Driscoll, the right tackle. Driscoll is playing worse than McKivitz. I'm going to say that one more time. And I don't see, I like to bring up things that I don't see a lot of other people who cover the 49ers, right? From your Grant Cones.
Do we know Lane Johnson isn't playing though? I thought
he's
questionable.
He could be, but then I put it at this. Let's say then Lane Johnson comes back, right? A la like kind of how we had Banks come back, right? At kind of like left guard. Like you're there, but are you 100% back? Right? Like how much percentage? So either way, you're not going to be getting it from I think that left tackle where Chase Young's going to be lined up at. So either way, you're going to be going up against an injured right tackle, or you're going up against a not so good right tackle, and the tight end that they would have to try and chip or block is not going to have that same success. So I'm really
assuming that Goddard isn't back, but we don't know that either.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And here's the other thing too, right? When we're talking about this rest that the 49ers have had, because I'm sure everyone saw this video. Okay, and I've been banged up, I've been hurt, I've been smashed, right? But we saw what happened with Christian McCaffrey. We saw those thick bruises. It hurt for him to walk. I mean, he's 20 something. I'm this is my last year being in my 30s. Next year I turn 40. Woohoo, big 4-0. I just when I looked at that, I was going like, man, how clutch is it for that extra like 72 hours of just healing for a guy like Christian McCaffrey?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But for this Eagles team, right? The Bills, they went to overtime. That wasn't just 4 quarters of play. Like we got to play our 4 quarters, and then we got to kind of dip out, right? Like when it was like 24 to whatever, like before halftime, even the 49ers players knew that it was over on halftime. They were kind of easing off the gas a little bit. The Bills took their pound of flesh from the Eagles that game. They didn't get to play 4 quarters of football. They played 5 quarters of football, and now their rest started on Monday. Whereas then for somebody like Christian McCaffrey, that was already day 4 of his rest.
And it was a late game too. It wasn't night game, but it was definitely not. It was 1:25, not 10 a.m.
This is
the third of a day they lose. So
first time where the 49ers actually get to be more rested than their opponent this week. So I when I look at that, I go like, you know what? Maybe they do, but our guys just got like basically a half a week to rest and heal, and then they can go through everything else that's kind of associated with that. So that would be kind of like my pushback. Like, yeah, maybe they get some of these guys back, but then they're hurt. And then what if they get hurt? Because this is going to be a game where we're going to be limping into the next game. But the Eagles are going to, they're going to be hurt too. Like, we're not the only one with, like, Christian McCaffrey. He just put on social media how bad he was limping after that game. But easy enough to do when you've got an extra 72 to 96 hours of rest than the opposing team. Also, don't forget, the Niners don't miscommunicate on plays. Josh Allen and Davis had that game ended, but they miscommunicated. Yeah, and I think that's kind of a huge thing right now, right? So when we lost Odom, and I'm starting to look at now, if I was a content creator, there's like 3 different videos that I would make, right? Like one of them would be Brock Breeze, right? Like Breeze 2.0. You know, like imagine if Drew Brees, we went into like a multiverse, we plucked him from the Saints there, and then we said, hey, instead of the Air Coryell system, we're going to be in like a run first system. Like, holy hell, if that isn't like what we're seeing right now. But we would have to pluck him from the Chargers when he was still there. Another one would be, if it is bad weather game, who does it favor more, Philly or – okay, so the 49ers. If it favors the 49ers. So a lot of people are saying, so we're not mutters like we were when we had to play against the Redskins – or I'm sorry, Commanders, formerly known as the Redskins. The Commanders, and you remember Bosa was sliding across the mud and all that stuff. We're not a mudding team anymore in the rain, right? Like Jake Moody missed that 40-yard field goal against Cleveland in the rain, but then their kicker made a 59. We may as well call it a 60-yard field goal in the rain. So, but I would say this, it would, in a weird way, ironically, would favor the 49ers more. The 49ers are plus 11 in the turnover department, whereas Philly are -2. I think that is a huge.
I disagree, Gammon. I think that Brock Purdy is a fair weather quarterback.
I don't
proven otherwise.
I don't think so. And again, here's the problem with Brock Purdy and anybody that we judge. Let me start over. I think that the MVP of this league should be going to two different players. I think it should be going to Myles Garrett of the Browns, because if they didn't have Myles Garrett, what would they be, 7-3 right now, or would they be 4-3? Number two should be Trent Williams. If not, then let's make the MVP award a quarterback award. Mitch Wishnowsky, he is no longer need to be called Mitch Wishnowsky. I don't know if it's because he's Australian, and so we're just going to hate him for that, being different. He talks funny. You know what I mean? But his name needs to be Pro Bowl Wishnowsky.
He's fantastic.
Unbelievable. He has a different golf club in his bag when he's kicking. It's like, because he knows, he's so used to playing rugby. He knows you can't just kick it any sort of way. These guys are going to, some guy from American Samoa is going to catch that. And you don't want, you need to make it difficult, right? And I've never seen this. I don't watch kicking, but I've never seen this. The ball was going like this. So on that Seahawks, remember where he muffed that catch? Yeah. Mitch Wishnowsky, you're not going to be able to – you can't field those. I looked at the Bills punter. Nobody's talking about special teams with this team. I looked at that Bills punter. He can't spin it, right, the same way that Mitch Wishnowsky can. There's certain rappers who couldn't spin it like Jay-Z. I'm telling you, Mitch Wishnowsky can spin it like a record when it comes down to kicking those punts, and he can tackle too. It wasn't a quinkadink, like he just had a bad game where he couldn't catch that ball. That was all Mitch Wishnowsky. The other thing, too, is I'm seeing a different attitude with Jake Moody. Jake Moody looks effing determined now when he's kicking the ball. Before, he looked scared. Before, he looked like a freshman at high school, right? And now he's starting to look like he's now a sophomore, but he's on the varsity team. Like, he's still not there, but he's like, shit, I kind of belong. I made it this year, and I even leaped a grade. So I can't remember the first question, but I think, yes, there are certain things and certain advantages that we have in the rain. And also, too, at the beginning of the season, and I asked some content creators, I was like, so when we have Brock Purdy, we have Sam Darnold, and then we have Trey Lance. Who had the biggest hands? Who had the smallest hands? Brock did. Who had the smallest hands on the team?
Well, they're about the same, 9 1/4.
Trey Lance. Trey Lance had the smallest hands. So, I think that's kind of like a big thing that kind of gets overlooked, and I don't think it's a coincidence with the way that you're seeing that the ball coming out of Brock Purdy's hands with it's spiraling and everything like that. And I'll say this: maybe if you say, hey, on long distance throws, the ball's going to be heavier, and then but we're not asking him to throw it 50 plus times a game. What's really going to be the thing is that Brock Purdy, he's got to get it out in 2.5 seconds. That once that back foot hits, he's got to let it rip, or he's got to throw it away. We don't have the time. What I love about Brock Purdy in his CPU is that if something doesn't work, he can quickly go to the next direction, put out that football. With this one, if the first read isn't there, you got to launch it. You got to launch it like a rocket. You got to get out of there. So we're going to be playing against Philadelphia's soft zone. Philadelphia doesn't want to play man and nut up on, and neither do we, against their receivers if it's rain, Because think about it. This jersey is slick. If I smack your hands and now you're off balance and I'm now in my go or my post or my corner route, like, do you want to see Deebo Samuel with 10 feet or 10 yards around him with the ball in his hand? Now you got to decide to try and make a tackle against someone's jersey who's soaking wet. So I do think that we have some advantage. Like, I think it helps out Yak a tremendous amount. But it's gonna be a game. It's gonna be a game. We're not mutters yet, but I think that these guys are all in their developmental stage. We saw Christian McCaffrey after he fumbled the ball in the rain. He was like, "Well, let me put on some gloves." Well, that's a novel idea, right? And then you saw Jake Moody. He slipped when he went to go kick the field goal. Maybe I should have some bigger spikes on my cleats. There we go. Brock Purdy has bigger hands. He's not concussed. I think we could, this could work. Philadelphia's dogs. Yeah. Philadelphia's dogs. They need to expose it once and for all. How many times can you play with fire without getting burned? So again, right. And I'm not going to call them lucky, but if you guys kind of remember a couple years past when the Seattle Seahawks still had Russell Wilson, and we're talking maybe 2021, 2020, that kind of thing, 2020. But they just kept on winning these games with like last second drives, right? And eventually it's one of those things where like it's going to catch up to you. You can't keep winning all these close games like all the time. It was amazing. We didn't expect that Russell Wilson led offense and defense to make it in the playoffs. But it came to a point when we were getting ready to play against them in the playoffs. And I was like, Russell Wilson, your offense, you're not going to be able to, you can't just silly your way out of all these close games all the time. They've had about 4 games where things broke right, and it wasn't because of what the Eagles did. It was because of what the other teams didn't do. So I think that's a huge thing. Our communication is tight. Our execution is back to where it needs to be.
If we don't, Gammon, if we don't execute, if we don't go up by 2 scores, say by 17 points at halftime, I think we're in a lot of trouble. You know that, and I'm not saying that this is because of Brock Purdy's. I'm saying it's because he's experience, his level. He's a young quarterback. I don't think he has that experience in him yet to really dig deep and come from behind. What's your thoughts on that?
So I don't think that that's a fair narrative to put on him. I have been since last year and during the offseason trying to crunch his film and trying to describe this guy. We keep describing him as Mahomes, or we're trying to link up his passing yards and everything like that, and or touchdowns and just level of play, how he's number one this. Honest to goodness, I think that he's Drew Brees. I think last year, and I said this, and I'm not going to move off of it. I don't care how many people hate me for this thought. But last year, we weren't going to beat the Eagles. I think there was a lack of experience on our team. And I think that goes for the coaches, the coaching staff. Because remember, that was kind of like a new coaching staff that kind of came there last season. So that was part of the reason why we started off kind of slow offensively. But I think they kind of overestimated some things that we could do on offense in terms of pass blocking, and we underestimated how well the Eagles could really get after us and disrupt our timing. This is a timing and rhythm offense. What I'm seeing from Brock Purdy this year, and since he has built up a lot more, as Red Jet Cell said, communication, and also too, what do you call it? Just knowing where Brandon Ayuk's going to be, knowing where George Kittle's going to be, like being able to look at McCaffrey, swing him back to the slot, and then call a hot route. These guys are on they're on a much better page. It's going to be even better next year if we can keep this group together. I think that if it's in the rain, we're going for 5-yard passes. And what's going to be interesting is then it's going to be about the Yak brothers. All of these guys, like who wants to try and tackle Christian McCaffrey in the rain? That just sounds
tough.
They're linebackers. I was licking my chops last week when I saw Byard covering Travis Kelce. I was like, this offense is so good at manipulating your linebackers that if you bring your free safety And now you can't bracket Ayuk or Debo, and you put them on our tight end Kittle. You're going to have some major problems because we're going to mess with what your linebackers are doing, especially in the rain. So, I kind of give it that thing of like we get enough touches on the ball and we get to our playmakers. I think that we're gonna win that one. They're gonna have a lot of underneath stuff, and Jalen Hurts is gonna have to try and make all those underneath passes. Otherwise, I feel really good about the angles that someone like Jair Brown and Gip are gonna take.
But in what he's done so far, and I think it comes down to Kyle Shanahan too. When Kyle Shanahan gets behind, we know he gets a little bit panicky, right? And I think that combination of Kyle getting a little bit panicky, and I love Brock Purdy. I think he's the best quarterback that we've had, since when I started following the Niners, who was back in 2000. What's that?
Jeff Garcia.
Jeff Garcia, that's right. I'm not saying that he doesn't have the ability or the talent to come back from behind, but I think it's just an experience thing. I mean, the games that he's played, the pressures that he's under. This is the NFL, so I guess I'm not. When I say that, it's not that I am taking a dig at his talent. I think it's just experience. But anyway, I get what you're saying.
Well, yeah, for me, like what we wanted to know about Purdy was, can he win with less?
Yes.
Can he come back from behind? And during that 3-game stretch, he didn't. But we didn't come from behind when we had everybody healthy. So, attempt to. So, that would be the difference. And maybe we'll get that answered this weekend. We'll see.
So the reason why I say yes is because I look at like and so entering in this season, I had like a whiteboard, and I don't have it here, but I'll have to bring it out. But it's a double-sided whiteboard. I flip it whenever I have a great idea, right? Like I write it. But for like all three quarterbacks, for Lance, for Purdy, for Sam Darnold, I had like 3 things that they must improve. Okay. For Purdy, one of them was like air yards. Hey, picking up some extra yards when he can leave the pocket, because his 10-yard split is just insane. You can't pick up like the touchdowns that Mahomes, Allen, and Hurts are picking up, those 20, 30 yards, but you can pick up those 3 to 5 yards. When I was looking at Lance, one of the things I was looking at was, number one, your cadence calling. Like, he just wasn't very audible. If you go back and you look through some of his tape, you don't hear him. But when you hear like Brock, Garoppolo, right? Hot, like you can actually you're like, shoot, like you could actually hear him. And with Lance, you were like, are we on a silent count? So that was one of them, right? For Lance, another one was get down and slide, protect your body. And then the third was you need to be able to effectively run a 2-minute drill. That was the thing. We kind of forgot. We bashed knock Garoppolo so much, but one of the things was not last season, but the season before that, Garoppolo was mastering the 2-minute comebacks, how he beat the Bengals, right, in the last 2 minutes. Like, he had so many games, but because of his ability to run that 2-minute drill. When I look at Brock, so whenever we talk about, like, do you think Brock can play for him? Just because we haven't seen it happen, right? I do think that Brock could go ahead and he could win that 2-minute drill. He has the confidence of everybody. He can get everybody down. He's maneuvering people in the right spots, and he's calling his hot routes when he's out there. So, yes, I do think they could do it. He just hasn't done it yet. Listen, Michael Jordan, if we said, who do you want to have the last shot in an NBA game? We'd say Michael Jordan, because you've seen him make all these big shots. But you can't expect him to be 80% as far as making that last shot in a pivotal game of a match. Mm-hmm. So Brock Purdy, he just hasn't had his opportunities, but I believe that he's there. But the biggest thing, if anybody had any questions, I'd say it's not his ability to come back. But my biggest questions are for him and Jake Moody. Can he do it in the rain? And I'm kind of hoping that it's a rain game and they kind of get this chance to show that.
To be fair against the Browns, let me just get this one out, Ted. To be fair against the Browns, he did get us down the field. It was just Moody that missed the field goal, and we would have won that game.
The Browns, yeah. I will say, when I was watching the Seahawks game on Thanksgiving, there was a point where we went for it on 4th down, and I was like, I agree with this because it's a long kick, and it's like, yeah, Moody he's got the leg to make it, but if he misses it, he's kind of on a little mini hot streak recently since, I guess, the Vikings game when he had his last miss. And so I'm pretty sure he was perfect Bengals and Bucks and Seahawks. Anyway, you know, and I was like, I think this is more of a long-term play, like where you're like, we need Moody to have confidence down the stretch and in the playoffs. And so maybe it wasn't the best thing to not go for the kick right there. It especially turned out not to be, because then I think we got a false start or some procedural penalty that backed us up 5 yards and we ended up punting. But then I was like, you know, just like we've been talking about Money Mitch, I was like, actually, that might not be a bad thing, because Mitch will probably, you know, pin him inside the 10. I think we pinned him inside the 2. So that was incredible. But anyway, also I will agree that Gammon was right that Trey Lance has slightly smaller hands than Brock Purdy. I was right about, well, I didn't double check Purdy, but I'm pretty sure he's 9.25 inch hands, and Trey Lance is 9 1/8, so just ever so slightly smaller hands. But I do not agree that Brock Purdy is a good wet weather quarterback. And I won't agree until I see it. I've seen enough in the Browns game and in the first half of the Seahawks game, that divisional game I was talking about where DK roasted Mooney Ward. Brock struggled in that first half when it was raining. And then the sun came out and the ball dried out and the field dried out, and he torched him in the second half. And so maybe that wasn't the reason why he struggled. Maybe it was just nervousness in his first playoff game ever. I don't know. But I will have my doubts about Brock and wet weather until he really shows up. Also, coming back from larger deficits. He did it against the Raiders, but come on, the Raiders defense is like last in the league, you know, at the end of last season. That was New Year's Day of 2023 when he did that.
I don't think Kyle Shanahan was in his bag, but that's an argument for another day. But if you look at the plays that he was drawing up against the Buccaneers, like having Christian McCaffrey run through one of the A gaps that cleanly and then got him that touchdown, where the heck was that during the Browns game? Like, I'm going to be honest, during that 3-game streak when we were blaming Wilkes, I was like, but I'm not seeing any of these majestic plays, this play calling, right? Like in the Waterboy where that coach has like that green book that he kind of holds on to. I wasn't seeing any plays from that green book.
Kyle's even said it himself, but can we go back to what James was saying in regard to, because I'm a big fan of Jair Brown. I want to hear you guys' thoughts, because as I said, I could only watch the 40-minute version because I was away. Was there any drop-off with Brown?
I mean, there was in the Bucs game, but, you know, he got the game-ending interception.
Yeah.
But before that, he got torched a few times. It's funny, I talked to somebody who I consider to be pretty knowledgeable about 49er stuff. And he said to me, we were at a party, and he said, Ted, you know, it's too bad about Hufanga, but there's literally no other player on defense I'd rather lose than Talanoa Hufanga. And I was like, whoa, what are you talking about? And then I sort of went through it with him, and we're like, obviously you don't want to lose any of our D linemen. And then you got Dre, and, you know, we'll just count Dre and Fred as linebackers. We won't talk about, you know, whoever, Oren Burks or whoever's filling in at strong side, you know, and then Lenore and Moody Ward. I was like, yeah, we need both of them badly. We need more corners, really, if we're being honest. And then maybe Ambry, but Ambry's been playing well recently. And definitely not Gibson. I mean, Gibson has been, what a find he's been for a guy off the street at the beginning of last season, or just right before the beginning of last season. So I almost had to agree with them. Like, if there was any player who was expendable on our defense, it was Huff, especially given that we had Jair Brown waiting in the wings. And one game is too soon to say, I would say, but I'd say I didn't see him have any notable issues against the Seahawks. I mean, you know, like I said earlier, like I wasn't going to get nervous in that game until their offense scored a TD, and they never did. So, I don't know, but why don't you guys take a swing at
What do you think, Gammon? What do you think of Jair Brown? Was he? I thought I didn't see him make, and again, I only watched the 40-minute game, so there was very little to see in terms of the way that he moved and between coverages in the setup, you know, in the snap count. But yeah, I want to hear your thoughts on Jair Brown. I really like him. I think he was a great draft.
I think if you look at the tape, you can kind of see why the 49ers were really wanting to kind of give him a year to kind of watch and study. He's a little bit loose with it on certain things. Like, he just has a knack for the ball, making plays. but he's playing a little bit out of his zone. Like there's a bubble. You have to picture everybody with these like concentric circles around them, right? Like these threat bubbles. Julio Jones' threat bubble was massive, but then you look at like somebody like Earl Thomas, like their threat bubble for coverage was like an equally seismic kind of like circle. So when I look at Jair Brown, I do think it's way too early. You're gonna have a drop off from a tone setting Pro Bowl safety. You know what I mean? Like we have to remember that, like regardless of whatever round that Talanoa was played in, regardless of how we might have felt his play fell off from, you're gonna have some kind of drop off when you go. He proven himself as a Pro Bowler. Everyone voted on that. That's who they kind of saw as a Pro Bowl level talent. He wasn't playing like this year, but that's neither here nor there. What I think this is going to be a big game for Jair because, like I said, if the 49ers take away the pass, Eagles are going to run it on you. If you take away the Eagles' ability to run, they're going to try and pass. That's why the games have been so close because teams have been trying to pick what they can kind of take away. I think the 49ers are going to sell out on trying to take away the run. So now we're going to see what Jair can do in coverage. And if he keeps getting lit up, we're going to start talking about like, hey, over the last like 9 weeks, did we see Huff get lit up like this? Or were these seam routes, right? Especially when we're talking about the Tampa 2, you have these certain seam routes that can kind of come in there where you have the 5 players underneath playing in that zone. You have the 3 up the top. Are you going to kind of see that with Jair? So how clean are the seams? So if everyone kind of remember that, how clean are the seams? So when you rewatch the tape, that's what you're going to kind of be looking at. So even if Jalen Hurts doesn't make the correct pass and he hits somebody else, but when you look at the tape and you're looking at Jair Brown, you're going like, oh man, that seam was busted wide open. Then that's kind of where you kind of have that idea at because that's how the next offensive coordinators will be tackling that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, there was a question there for you, Ted.
Yes, there was.
Which one?
Let's see here. It was from Randy Daytona, which is just a sexy name. Can I just say that or no?
You sure? You just
I guess I did. So it's above like Terradomes. It's kind of sandwiched in between Randy Daytona's and Terradomes, and then it kind of goes up above there. Yep, there you go.
Oh yeah.
We start all elite talk. Well, when he says we, he means me because he's the one who says Purdy's elite. I've still been resisting giving him the elite moniker. I'm starting to get closer to it though. And Terradome was trying to say,
can you use Pro Bowl? Pro Bowler?
Pro Bowl Purdy? Sure.
Yeah, because
you don't have to be elite to make the Pro Bowl, that's for sure. So yeah, I'll say Pro Bowl Purdy. Absolutely. Stay opposing. As long as you're picking the Eagles and hating on Brock, we're good. I never hated on Brock. I just resisted calling him elite earlier, and then those 3 games, those 3 losses sort of showed why. But I wasn't one of those people who jumped on him and said he's no good. I just said, you know, like I said, maybe not in the rain, maybe not from behind without all the weapons. But I have a lot of confidence in him. I will say for this week, I am picking the Eagles if it's a close game. I don't trust this team in close games. We haven't won any close games, but it may not be that close of a game, or it may be close at the end, but where we were up big early, and the Eagles may get closer by the end, but still fall short. I could see us winning that way, but I don't see us if it's like a pitched battle back and forth, punch for punch, to use the Rocky Creed one that I saw earlier in the chat. I just don't see us winning a game like that because I haven't seen us win one like that with Purdy. So
I see it differently, but again, only because I don't think we should be calling Brock Purdy MVP Purdy or MV Purdy, but I do think we should be calling him, like, put some respect on his name, Pro Bowl Brock Purdy. In the NFC, Pro Bowl Brock Purdy. But if it's a back and forth and we're talking about we're playing the field position game, that's Pro Bowl Mitch Wishnowsky. I'm going to speak his name into existence. I don't watch punting. If you told me, to go out there and coach some punters or what do I see different, like how do I rank? I can't do that. But if we're going into like a field position game, I'm really liking what I'm seeing from our defensive front. again, maybe we get blasted 31-17, we lose, and then I walk back into this chat with my tail between my legs. But I think a lot of times we kind of, I don't want to say discredit, but we make special teams as the third, like kind of like an afterthought. Like we don't really give it as much, like that third phase, as much credit as we should. When we were playing against the Green Bay Packers, one of the reasons why we were thinking we were going to beat them in the playoffs with Jimmy Garoppolo playing there in the snow was because the Packers had the worst special teams unit in the league. And then it became like a special teams play. Ted, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
If, let's say, so Brock Purdy, he only does well because of the Avengers around him. If that's right, like that's the Nick Wright, right? Shannon Sharp.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If Jair Brown has a good game, should we just say it's only because of all the Avengers he has around him?
Sure.
Isn't that kind of like disrespectful, kind of discrediting kind of how they prepare, how they wake up, how they get ready? Because I mean, that's a full plate on your hands. Because here's the thing.
You got the highest paid defender in the freaking NFL on your D line. The highest paid linebacker is your linebacker, or well, maybe a fraction lower than Shaq Leonard now.
Devil's advocate, right?
You got Hargrave. Now we got Chase Young.
Right.
My son is very highly paid.
My son is 10 years
Mooney
old.
Ward is very highly paid.
My son is 10 years old. Okay. I give him a Lamborghini Diablo way faster than my Chevy Malibu, right? Now he should win because all he's got to do is just kind of drive straight, right? Maybe he does, maybe he hits a wall. We don't know what would happen, but I'm probably going to beat him in that Chevy Malibu, right? Just because I kind of know where I'm going, especially if we got to hit a left-hand turn, right? And so the reason why I say this is because Brock Purdy, when I started looking at the tape and the film, it wasn't just his processing power. Okay, I saw throws that Josh Allen made that I just didn't think that Brock Purdy could make. I remember this throw against the Eagles that Colin Kaepernick made. He jumped up in the air. He just hurled it like a javelin from Zeus's, arms, just straight over Earl Thomas, in between Cam Chancellor. Anquan Bolden caught it. It was in the Seahawks house. It was one of the top 10 most amazing, ridiculous throws I've ever seen. I remember it was so awesome. I threw up on that play. It was absolutely incredible. Brock Purdy couldn't make those throws. But when I watched what the throws that Josh Allen was missed, because you have to remember, he threw it 51 times. He completed 29. He missed 22. When I saw the plays that passes that Josh Allen missed, I said, Brock Purdy wouldn't have missed those. He may not make the throws that other quarterbacks can't make, but he makes the throws that other quarterbacks don't. For whatever reason, I don't know. But we're kind of talking about keeping on a pace of play. So my question would be this. Do you remember like 2 years ago, Jimmy Garoppolo, he played all the games, right? And you'd go back and you look at the tape and you kind of go like, you know what? Jimmy Garoppolo missed this pass. Like, yes, a little bit of a check down Charlie. I'm glad that he made this play. But damn, Brandon Ayuk was wide the hell open over here. Like if he just would have picked up his eyes and kept looking down the field, he would have seen nobody was within like 10 yards of Brandon Ayuk and he was behind the defense. Easy throw. And I would see that like once every other 2 games, like 2 or 3 like throws, like missed opportunities is what we'll call them. When you look at the film with Brock Purdy and you look over at this whole entire season, how many throws did you go, damn, Brock Purdy left money on the table?
Not as many as Jimmy. That was constant with Ayuk for sure. But I know Pedro needs to get going.
Okay.
He had a hard stop at an hour. So thank you, Pedro. It's a pleasure as
See you
always.
guys. Hey, thank you very much, Gammon. Good to meet you, man. Good to chop it up with you, buddy.
Absolutely. I don't know, if it's like an Australian thing, but I just feel like before you leave, I don't know if you have like a didgeridoo, but if you could play that on the way out, that would be absolutely incredible.
I do not have a didgeridoo, but if I did, I would be able. I can play it a little bit, but that is something I can't do today. So, guys, have a great rest of the show. Won't see you, Ted, till after the Phillies game. So let's hope we are talking about a victory Monday.
Victory Monday, baby. Book it. All right.
See you, mate.
Thanks, Pedro.
Yeah, that was my main thing, Ted, is that other quarterbacks in the system leave money on the table. You know, Brock Purdy, he just does a really good job of just taking what's there and what's available. And the you know, if we're playing kind of like a zone defense, so are the Eagles. They're playing like a zone defense as well. And so they leave a lot of stuff on the underneath. And that's the thing. If you leave money on the table, Brock Purdy's gonna get it. He understands. I think what's incredible about him is he understands like his limitations. To be so young and just understand like I can't make this type of throw. The way that I kind of described Josh Allen was that Josh Allen, he looks at the film, he sees everything, he understands what he can do, and he wears the Superman uniform. But like sometimes I wish he would leave the cape in the film room. But then when you're down, when your team's like down like 2 touchdowns, that's the time to put on the cape. That's the time to go nuts and let it loose. Whereas like Brock Purdy, he may not be able to put on the cape, but he just plays so within himself. He's still Superman, but without the cape.
There you go. Well, real quick, Pterodome has something here. I'm going to scoot back up real quick.
Okay.
To Red Jet Shell. She said something about like basically we, you know, no, that wasn't it. It was the one about basically.
She's not wrong though. That is not wrong.
This is the one here. Purdy will never be accepted until. So I said that earlier in the season, and then more recently I've been just saying, hey, look, if Purdy balls out and something goes wrong and we don't win at all, you know, injuries or a fluke play or whatever it is, I'm not going to hold that against Purdy. Yeah. So I mean, I said basically he needs to win it all or win with less, and when we had less, we didn't win. So he had a chance to do that already this season. I hope if he gets another chance, he'll do a little bit better with it. But hey, that's fine. Pterodome has this comment about the pass to Kittle with Wagner draped all over him. I guess that didn't happen. What are you talking about,
Pterodome? I don't remember that at all.
Well, the one I remember was the one that Coach Yak reposted, where Brock was running to his right and he threw it deep to Kittle on the right sideline, and Kittle got pushed out of bounds. And a lot of people were saying like, oh, well, you know, where's the noodle arm here? And I'm like, well, actually, you know, he threw it late and he threw it too high. And so Kittle was pushable out of bounds. If he threw it earlier or with more zip on it, Kittle probably would have come out in bounds with it. I don't think it's a good example to show like, oh, here's his arm strength when it's a freaking incomplete ball. And because of late decision and not getting enough oomph on it. So, you know, that one to Kittle, I thought was a really poor example by Coach Yak to put that up on Twitter. I didn't say anything about it on the timeline, but I'll say it here. You know, and all these people crowing about like how great Purdy is because of that, like that's bull. I mean, sorry, but I mean, it was nice. It would have been nice if it was a completion, but it wasn't. So, you know, that's all I have to say about that one. But yeah, I mean, Purdy had a real nice game. You know, the interception, he threw a couple right there on the goal line. There was one right before it where he threw it a little high too. They were both a little high. So it was his fault that it got intercepted. It's too bad it turned out to be a pick six. But, you know, he had a real nice game. And he's had, you know, 3 really nice games in a row. Obviously, you know, with the Jags, Bucks, and now the Seahawks. So keep it up, Brock. This is the one that counts, right? This is a defense that counts. This is an offense that's going to put a lot more pressure on us, and this is the one we need to get. If we have any hope of getting home field advantage throughout the playoffs, this is the one we need to do. Real quick, Kim, let me do a quick commercial break, real quick to pay the bills. If you see the logo up in the corner, TTG, that's the Travelstead Group. They are retail and hospitality logistics. So they do transportation and warehousing for brick and mortar. They do FFE, which is fixed furniture and equipment. They do OSC, which is operating supplies and equipment. They do new store openings, rollouts, relocations, decommissions, from the first mile to the final mile and everywhere in between. Travelstead has you covered. Let them know how they can help you by air, ocean, or land. They do closed loop solutions for retail and hospitality. Nick and Henry are the go-to guys there. They have 100% US-based support. These are complex operations, so always fine-tuning going on, if not snafus. It's good to know when you pick up the phone, there's people on the other end that know what you do, not some call center overseas where they got no clue what you or your company do. So, so check out their website. It's in the description of the show, my YouTube about page, my Twitter bio. It's in Instagram and Facebook if you follow me there. Click it, check out the video, and be sure you tell them that Ted sent you. That really helps. So thanks in advance.
Absolutely.
So where were we? We're at Terradome, but go ahead if you had thoughts, Gammon.
Yeah. So this quote down here by Donald Johnson, he said, "I believe Niners could definitely win as long as we stay healthy." It's second from the bottom there.
Yeah.
So this is the thing. So last year, brutally honest, I knew we were going to beat the Cowboys, but also too in the same vein, I knew we were going to lose to the Eagles. That wasn't a good front against Purdy, and then these plays that worked on so much timing and rhythm and stuff for Shanahan to set up. What I'm saying this year, I actually really do feel like the 49ers are going to win. Completely different from last year and this year. I think that you're going to hear people go like, the Eagles defense has taken a step back, but they're not really explaining why that they're taking a step back. Well, I think a big difference is that Cox and Hargrave are on different ends of the spectrum right now. I mean, Hargrave his pass rushing scores, according to PFF, is redonkulous, absolutely redonkulous. So they're not they used to be masters of the interior and they could get after you in the exterior. It's not the same. As evidence to why they had to draft Sweat, or I'm sorry, trade for Sweat. Their corners are kind of having a down year. They don't have all that same pressure there. So I really do see this team actually having a legitimate chance, even with all the woes on the offensive line. One of the big things I'm looking at for next year, I know we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but I think Jennings just needs to add 10 or 15 pounds on, kind of take that Matthews approach, transition to tight end. I think that his time is there, and just go on from there. But I really do see 49ers walking away with the win, even if it's a tight win. This is going to be huge redemption, because I hope that it rains. I hope that the 49ers win, and I hope that Moody makes a game field goal kick, because we just literally get 3 monkeys off of our back, right? Playing in ominous weather, kicking in the rain, and having trust in our kicker. And yeah, we're back to being mutters, but the mindset on this team is just totally different.
There you go. No doubt about it. Yeah, it'd be great to get all those out of the way. Hoping for that. We called out Donald Johnson in the house. Welcome. Also wanted to call out, might be a new chat member. It was Callie something or other. Now I can't seem to find him. Let's see here. Where'd he go? Team Callie. Here he said, "Are we hating on Brock? Should be known as .30." Yeah, I mean, Brock, I don't hate Brock. I like Brock a lot. I've been saying that as the day is long. What I hate is the hyperbole. And as he plays better and better, it becomes less and less hyperbole. So I'm still not ready to call him elite, still not ready to call him the best. He does have the best stats, but some of that is a system of having the best weapons and Kyle calling the plays, the best running back. I mean, because CMC is bar none the best running back in the NFL right now. It's just not even close with anybody else. But even when CMC's out, we have a really good run game in general. Whether it's Elijah Mitchell or JP Mason, they're tearing off big runs when they get in. Haven't seen much of Mason lately. Like to see more of him, but ultimately, a lot of it is just the scheme, Kyle's scheme, and the weapons. And Purdy has done the best job of anybody that we've seen run it. Maybe even better than Matt Ryan in his MVP season. But that sort of remains to be seen. But he's doing a great job, and I'm happy with him. And hopefully it's not the kiss of death, like Terradome said. That's what they said during the 3-game losing streak. But I never jumped off the Purdy train. I stayed on. I said it took me a long time to get here. I'm not going to just jump off right away either. I'm glad I stuck around, because he's been turning it around ever since. So we'll see.
Right. I mean, if we're going to make a cake, right, you have your eggs, your milk, your batter, cooking temperature, all those things that in the craftsmanship, that's all it goes into making a great cake. Look, you can't make a good offense without missing one of its ingredients. You got to have a great pass catcher, Jerry Rice. You got to have a great quarterback, Joe Montana. You got to have a great scheme, Bill Walsh. Because if you don't, then you've got when it's not working, well, then that's where how many offensive coordinators have been fired so far this season, Ted? Like, I don't know the exact count, but the season's not even over, even to that part of like Black Monday, right? Like, we're not even at that point yet, and offensive coordinators are out. So if Kyle Shanahan wasn't doing a good job, he wouldn't have gotten that extension. So we can't. It's hard to bake a cake without all the necessary ingredients. But I'm not going to fault Patrick Mahomes for taking advantage of Tyreek Hill, and I'm not going to blame Purdy for actually utilizing George Kittle. Like, I didn't see too much from Garoppolo. I wasn't a big Garoppolo stan. There's a lot of Garoppolo stans. I just wasn't one of them. And then we're kind of seeing that here. I mean, now Garoppolo's he's hit the bricks, right? And then you're seeing Purdy kind of doing his thing. We all get opportunities in life. Brock just stood up and took it. So bless him and Godspeed. Maybe this is his year, right? And so that's one of the things I would encourage everybody to try and do this. Okay, it's a working exercise. If you're on your computer, you can go ahead and do this while I talk. But bring up your computer, go to one of your favorite ESPN sites or any kind of thing where you can look up like a player's history, okay, and kind of what they did statistically. Now, go ahead and then take a white sheet of paper. Don't even look at everything. When you look up like Steve Young, don't even look up everything, okay? Just take that white sheet of paper, slide up to the very first season, take a look at that, okay? And then the next thing that I want you to do is one by one, go line by line without even being able to see the whole career. Just go line by line and then start looking at all the years and everything like that. And then I bet you, without even seeing, you'll be able to know which one was their career freaking season right there. And then you go like, I don't even know what the next 5 years or 6 years, however many are left, but this is going to be that career year. Maybe Brock Purdy is just having that career year this year. That's very possible. But
I mean, using Jimmy Garoppolo as an example, because Terradome said that he only scored 24 points. Well, and it wasn't 24. When he had CMC, he scored 26, and Purdy scored 33. So it was a 7-point difference. And part of that is made up for by the fact that Garoppolo only got 1.2 turnovers generated by our defense, while Purdy got 2.4. So that's part of it. The big thing is, look at Garoppolo, what he's done this year with the Raiders. He's totally fallen on his face. He led the league in interceptions.
With who I think is the actual best wide receiver in the league, Devontae Adams. I know everyone's going to say Tyreek Hill, but Devontae Adams is the best. You can make an argument for, or Justin Jefferson, any of those three, you can make an argument for. But, ultimately, he was leading the league in interceptions. And not only that, at the same time, he was leading the league in not throwing TDs, too, of games that QBs that have played 6 or more games this season. So, you just look at that fall off, and that's what I'm telling you. You keep in mind for Purdy, and you throw out Josh Johnson. Come on, dude. Josh Johnson has never been a starter on any team anywhere ever, and will never, ever be the starter without barring injury. I got love for you, JJ. Don't ever quit. Can you go down to Brian Culp's question here? Yeah, sure. It says I only have so 2 things with this. So the only reason why I brought the white paper is because I have a big love for those 94 throwbacks, but I don't like to call it yellow paper. Brian, you have a channel. Let's be professionals. It's gold. Okay, it's not yellow. It's gold. All right, and if you want to, you could even use like kind of a red piece of paper then to kind of square in, kind of really get that isolated in there. But come on, Culp, we're professionals. There you go. Work it in there. Yeah, I said anyone could do it. No, I didn't say anyone could do it. I said that at least 10 quarterbacks in the league could do it earlier this season. And, that list is getting shorter, especially with Burrow being gone and Rodgers not being back. But I would have both of them higher than Purdy healthy. You don't have to take that from this is your channel. You tell the numbers, Ted. Yeah, stats can be deceiving, Terradome. But like I said, hopefully we never see Purdy on another team. We don't have to worry about it. But I think we will see him with less, and hopefully he'll improve by then, and he'll still look the same or better. That's my hope. We'll see. But we saw it with Trent Williams and Debo out, and there's no denying
the team did not look the same. So, it just, sorry, Terradome, but the great quarterbacks elevate their players more, I think, than Purdy does. But anyway, I like him a lot. Like I said, I had him 6 to 9 in my last ranking. I'll come out with something tonight or tomorrow with my next ranking, but it'll probably be in that 5 to 8 range. But I'm still not ready to call him elite yet, so we'll see. But I do have to run. I have a 3:30 show with Ryan from BSing Sports. It's Behind the Enemy Lines, Eagles creator, and then again tomorrow at noon with Mitch Kofsky, who's the Eagles creator. So I'll have back-to-back Eagles shows.
Tell him we're going to cook his team by using a play action. So just let him know that.
All right, I'll tell him again.
And they can't stop our run. So
and they can't stop our run. I love it. Good. I love it. But thanks everybody for coming out. You guys, the chat was hopping, always great. And even Terradome tries to be confrontational, but
that's our man.
We've met in person. I know T-Dome. It's fine, and it bugs me a little bit because there's some people on the timeline who actually take stuff like this and they're like, "Oh, Ted really does hate Brock Purdy," and nothing could be further from the truth. I've liked him all along. I just, like I said, hated the hyperbole, and more and more it's becoming less and less hyperbole. It is starting to be more appropriate to compare him to the greats.
Listen, I love,
but I'm still not there yet.
I got love for all you guys. You can't take everything that Terradome says or anybody on the internet. You got to take it with like a grain of salt, because eventually, you're on here, you use Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you do this on YouTube. Eventually, one take on any of these platforms is going to be wrong, and someone's going to be upset. Just the other day, Terradome was telling me he's 6'5". I ran into him in the mall, and the dude's like 5'6". Unbelievable.
No,
you know what I mean? So you can't. I know.
He's like 5'11", I think.
Right? Yeah. But he's sub 6 foot.
He's maybe an inch shorter. He's a big guy, no doubt about it. We're both big guys. So preach.
I love you, Terradome. I'm just taking a shot at you because I got the mic and you don't.
He's great. He's great. And so all these folks: Randy Daytona, James Durnall, Nancy, Bryant Kolb. We had a great turnout, and hopefully Team Cali will be back. It was nice to meet you. And Donald Johnson, thanks for stopping by. And Red Jet Shell, of course, amazing. And I think covered most of the folks. Jim Everett the Great, can't forget him, even though he was a Rams fan.
I love that man.
He has some good stuff. And I guess Skip Bayless stopped by, right? Alberto Soto, Nancy, and Daniel Berry, Sports Highlights, and Jimmy Perez. So I think that covers pretty much everybody. Oh, and Steven, don't bother me. So thanks everybody who stopped by. And Pedro and I'll be on next Monday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. And Gammon, I'll see you again soon, I'm sure.
An Australian man named Pedro. Love it. All right.
Have a good one. Cheers. Thanks.